This episode is presented to you by NFL Sunday Ticket, now on YouTube and YouTube TV. With NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV, you can watch your favorite teams' out-of-market Sunday games, plus watch up to 4 games at once with Multiview. Don't miss the race to the playoffs. NFL Sunday Ticket is now just $39 when bundled with YouTube TV, where you get even more football. Visit youtube.com/Spotify offer to sign up now. Lowest price on YouTube TV with base plan. Rest of 2023 season. Terms and embargoes apply. No cancellations.
Hey, Brad, you know how Nationwide is more than an insurance company?
Yeah, they're one of America's largest financial services companies.
We get that in a song like Business Life Retirement.
Or Nationwide's there to protect.
I'm kind of the jingle guy.
Not sure I agree with that.
Well, I'm not sure I like your hat.
Well, it would never fit on you.
Products issued by Nationwide Life Insurance Company or Nationwide Life and Annuity Insurance Company. The general distributor for variable products is Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
You have the food, the decorations, but you're running out of time to get the perfect holiday gifts. Good thing Sephora offers free same-day delivery. Order the best fragrance, makeup, skincare, and hair care gifts online and have them delivered from the store to your door today. No order minimums, only with free same-day delivery at Sephora. Use code GETGIFTS. Oh, Sephora, that was fast. Offer ends December 24th. Exclusions and terms apply. Beauty insiders only. One-time use available in select markets.
My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. Give me beer, whiskey, wine or gin. Anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking.
At it again with another episode of the Shades of Blue Soccer Show. The Kansas City soccer outdoor soccer season has come to an end after the current fell to the Portland Thorns in the NWSL final over the weekend. But there's still a lot going on. Soccer is a buzz right now. Champions League was crazy today. We got a new player for Sporting KC. It is officially World Cup month. We're less than a month away. So yes, we got plenty to talk about tonight. We're without Thad tonight. And we're without David. We've got Chad here. David might be joining. We don't know. It's a bit chaos tonight, but that's what this show's all about, right? So, gentlemen, how are you doing? Chad, what's going on, man? I haven't seen you in a while.
Good to see you, Cody. I'm excited to talk some soccer. And don't forget, we have another person with us, too.
Yes, we do. I started with you. I was going to get to Robert. Robert comes second here. He's a regular.
Okay.
Robert, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. We got Thad having a lovely dinner out. We've got David dealing with the kids, and I guess we're just the three bachelors in a sense, right?
Was that is that water out of a wine glass?
I had wine earlier, so that's why I was asking about your drink of choice, and I'm, cooling down for the evening. So.
Yeah. And I don't know how my wife would feel about you saying we're three bachelors hanging out here tonight.
Well, in a sense, you know what I'm saying.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, so should we talk about how underwhelming the NWSL final was? I know it's a few days removed now. We've had some good amount of content on it. I think there's been at least one podcast, maybe two on it already. But yeah, we should talk about it at least a little bit. I think we'll do when it's closer to the end of the year, I think we can do a more well-rounded year wrap up for our teams and all of that. But I wanted to take a little bit a look at the roster a little bit. Chad, I know you wrote an article on who is out of contract and some potential moves that might be made. So let's hear about that. Who's some of our favorites that might not be back next year?
Yeah, so there's a bit of a list here. There's a couple we don't know. The team hasn't been able to clarify, and they're going to release that on, I think they said the 14th of November off the top of my head. That would be AD French, we don't know, and Cassie Miller, her backup. So we could have no goalkeepers. We'll see. But then also out of contract are captain Desiree Scott, right wing back Kate Del Fava, center back Taylor Leach, JC Johnson, who didn't play much, injured a lot. Kristen Edmonds, kind of a jack of all trades and defensive midfielder,
It's
wing
a
back,
long list.
fullback. Yeah, Addie McCain, CC Kaiser, who's been quite the star, not from Germany again, just to remind you, Cody. And then contract options available on Addison Merrick, third goalkeeper Sydney Snyder, Jenna Weinbrenner, and Izzy Rodriguez. So
Isaiah,
like
you can see
11
how I made the
players.
mistake. You can see it. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I know why you thought it.
Is this an unpopular opinion here? Amy Franch, should we bring her back? She seems like, at least at one point, it seemed like maybe she was a fan favorite, but maybe no surprise to you guys. Like I, as a keeper, like I don't know, I haven't been the biggest fan of hers this year.
Yeah, is there a goalkeeper that you do like in the world?
Yes, I give keepers respect when due. I don't know. I just, and again, I didn't watch every game, but it seemed like the games I tuned in, I was thoroughly underwhelmed by her. She did have one
Interesting.
one very good save there in the final. That was a very good save, full stretch, fingertips. That was a great save. But yeah, I don't know. Is the prevailing theory that she'll be brought back?
I mean, that would be my assumption. Like I'm surprised. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that you don't aren't high on a goalkeeper, but she's quite a shot stopper. She's getting better with her feet, but her distribution with her feet definitely is kind of her weak point. It's probably what keeps her from being the starter on the national team. But she was a goalkeeper of the year finalist. She just got called back into the U.S. women's national team. And I can't imagine if she wants to be back that they wouldn't have her back. She's a Kansas native. Hopefully this is home for her, close to home. I don't know, but you never know. She got traded. Maybe she doesn't really want to be in Kansas City. So I have no insight whatsoever on if she does or doesn't. And we actually have media day on Friday to get a chance to talk to her before, and everybody, coach, general manager, stuff like that.
Media day on Friday, like an end of the season media day.
Yeah, like a wrap-up media day. For sure, we're getting Potter and Camille, the GM, but I don't know so much about if there'll be any players there or not.
Yeah, I mean, Sporting used to do that years ago, but haven't done it the last couple of years. That's for sure.
Yeah, this year the Sporting just did. It was like Vermes, and then we had Polito and Kinda early in that week,
Right. Yeah.
but that was it.
But would you say,
Oh, no,
Chad,
there's a
that
couple more.
the amount of people that are, in questionable situations is pretty typical for a 2-year-old franchise?
Yeah, I would say so. And then the NWSL just seems to have, in general, kind of shorter contracts
That's
because
what I
they
was.
had to re-sign a ton of these players at the beginning of the year. I was just remember how many signings articles we were doing over and over, trying to keep up with everything. So I'm hoping that, between the new training facility, the groundbreaking on the stadium, just the investment that the ownership group has in this team, that's going to make people want to be here, want to stay here, want to come here that are at other
Right.
places. You saw Kaiser and Merrick, they're KC natives, getting traded back to the team this year. They're both on this list. I would think they probably got traded here because they wanted to be here. I doubt Louisville really wanted to give them up. They weren't like the strongest team in the league. So I would think they would be around, and it's not abnormal for this many people to be out of contract. But some people are going to have to go because they have 8 draft picks next year, and they are really good at drafting. So I imagine they're going to have to clear some space.
Yeah, I mean, I think over time we'll see more and more stability, in a sporting sense, that we have people who are not necessarily lifers for current, but close to it probably.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, if you think about it, a couple players, Lowe and Desiree Scott, were here for the FC Kansas City days, went to the
Right.
Utah Royals. The Royals became the current, like it's really all the same team, even though they act like they're kind of 3 separate franchises. So
Yeah.
those two have been around quite a long time. I kind of feel bad for Desi because I don't know if y'all remember, she wasn't on the 2 title winning teams. She was away in Europe for those 2 seasons. I was like, oh, what are the odds? So, but you never know. She's 35. She might want to hang up the boots.
That sounds like Roger Espinosa. Because he missed MLS Cup
Yeah,
2013.
Wigan, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of Rogers, should we touch on that very briefly? He was quoted in in a rival on our rival podcast that shall not be named. I'm trying to develop a rivalry there. It'll be good for ratings. He announced what was the exact quote here? I want to get it right here. He said, "I still got a lot to give," quote unquote. Where do we
Not shocking now, but yeah.
how do we feel about that? Robert, I'll let you go. I feel like you've been pretty vocal about Roger this year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what everybody says. He's a good 40-minute player. He's a great locker room guy. I think with the massive amount of people we have in midfield, I don't see, I think it would be okay to let Roger go and get some of these guys time and see how that's going to work. But then again, gosh, I'd hate to see him go.
Yeah, who does what Espinoza does, right? When you look at the rest of this midfield, like I'd say Jake Davis is the most like for like, and that guy got the least amount of minutes of all their midfielders. So it's not like he's stepping in tomorrow.
That's one problem I have, though, is how come they haven't groomed or gotten a replacement for Roger in all this time? But
well, that's what I was hitting on a lot of this year. Weren't they trying to make Felipe that guy?
I think so, possibly. Yeah, I mean, there's the case to be made. He's just not quite the same. Like, I'd say he's slightly more technical than Roger, and he's not as physical as Roger. Like, he's got definitely a mean streak in him. I've seen him get some pretty nasty cards at points in his career, but particularly when he was in the USL with the second team. But I just don't think that he's ever going to develop into that. But then he's still really young. It's not like he's an old man out there. So maybe, what we always said about Showy, right? Maybe he'll get those man muscles and get bigger and stronger and knock some people around out there.
Well, I know Jake Davis is probably the more like for like, but wouldn't you say that was probably the long-term plan there, even though Felipe is maybe a little bit different of a player than Roger? Wouldn't you think like his destination or where they thought he was going to play was in that position in the midfield, even though he's a bit different of a player?
Robert, you want to take this one?
I would think so, but I'll tell you what, the thing about Roger, and we got to admit this because it's true, he has a lot of tools in his toolbox. He's not only that hound dog type of guy, hard worker, but he's also a very good passer, actually. His shooting could always work and be better. And he reads the game well. So he has a lot in his game that is hard to replace. So we got to be honest about that.
I'll not have the slander about the long distance shots. When Roger Espinoza is winding up for a long range shot from 25 yards outside of the box, it is the most exciting thing in city sports.
Hey, goal of the year for Sporting Kansas City, right?
Yeah, I don't think it was the goal of the year, but it did technically win that award. Yeah. I will say too, I don't know if y'all noticed this about Roger this year, that I actually felt like he kept a lot more shots on target. Like he would take shots and I go, oh, this thing's going 20 yards over the bar. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh no, he put that on target, or like maybe got blocked, or keeper stopped it or whatever. But I think he was getting better.
He did. And I had that conscious thought partway through the season. And then he did have one where he skied it. He had at least one this year. And then it was once again, oh, look at Roger, always skying it over the bar.
Hey, his is the only signed jersey I've hanging on my wall. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm a big Roger guy too. I wrote in one of those articles that we did at the end of the season that, it's probably time for him to move on. But, if you want to come back for a low enough amount of money and you want to be that locker room guy and know that you're getting less minutes, he basically said that in the interview on the podcast that shall not be named, I guess, our fake rival podcast. But he said he wants the guys like Davis, Duke, and Hernandez to say to him, hey, Roger, you need to retire now because they're taking his spot from him. But he wants it to be at the end of the next season. So
now, please don't say this is the nicest rivalry in podcasts. Please don't go there.
Oh my God, no.
Screw those guys.
Exactly.
And that's David's intro and outro for the podcast. That's all we needed from him tonight. No, David, did you want to? We're finishing up with just a quick chat on Roger Espinoza. Did you want to? I know you have strong opinions on him. Do you want to give your take on if he should be brought back? He says he's got a lot. I still got a lot to give, he says.
My thing with Roger is that, if it was me running the team, I would bring him back in a heartbeat, because I think on a cheap deal, he provides a lot of value as a veteran presence and as a mentor for the younger guys in the locker room. My fear is that Vermes will run him out there for 1,000 minutes And it's less. I mean, we already have a crowded midfield with Kinda, Radoja, Eric Tommy, Remy Voltaire. That's already 4 starters for 3 spots. And then once you factor in Duke and Felipe, who I hope we're bringing both back, plus Jake Davis, where do the minutes go? So that's my only concern with Roger, is that he's going to take minutes away from guys who need to develop.
No, see, that's my point with this. I saw that comment elsewhere, somewhere on Twitter, I think, was, yeah, I like Roger, but I'm just worried he's gonna play too much because Vermes does that. And I think, David, you just kind of answered your own question there. I don't think there is enough minutes for him at this point. I think with Tommy and Kinda, like, I think he was playing so much last year because Kinda was gone. And I think if Kinda is at the front of the midfield and with Eric Tommy behind him, or vice versa, I don't know, either way. I think Roger can come off the bench. And you guys are minimizing. No one has mentioned the best tool that he may have at this point in his career is to come off the bench and take a red card or a yellow card. That's the best tool in his arsenal at this point, I think, right?
Not sure a player off the bench getting a red card is super helpful to his team, but
yeah, that's real bad.
I was in the game for 5 minutes and I got thrown out of it.
He takes the place of a guy who's on a yellow, then he gets a yellow. So yeah, that's how it goes.
All right.
Yeah.
MLS Cup is this weekend. The stage is set. I think Kevin Lopez on the show called the exact final in his prediction, LAFC, the Philadelphia Union. And it should be a banner occasion for MLS. It's the biggest night of the year in MLS. And it should all be so great if only there was parking available.
They'll work it out. Come on.
Greenwald, have you heard this story?
Or are they?
I haven't.
So yes, if you have not heard this, LAFC has developed a shuttle system, because there is a college football game. USC is playing a college football game. Like, and I don't even think it's the same day, right? It's like the night.
It's the same day. It's 6 hours later.
Okay. Yes, and you gotta leave room for the tailgaters more so than a cup final.
Yeah. Now, if I read these correctly, I don't think you can actually tailgate in the parking lot for either USC or LAFC. If I read the tweets right.
I guess that's not, 6 hours is just a tight window. I guess you can't get everybody.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the rules are. I've been to 2 LAFC road games because I used to live in Arizona, so it was a short drive to go out there and see Sporting play. Actually, the first ever loss that LAFC had in that stadium, I was there. Sporting won that game, and I feel like there were people out tailgating, but maybe it wasn't this official parking lot. There's a lot of parking around there. It's Los Angeles, right? It's just a big pile of concrete, but there were definitely people out doing stuff. Maybe it was I don't know, against the rules or illicit tailgating going on.
Illicit, yes.
Tailgating. I don't know. I know it's not that big of a deal. They'll figure it out and all that. It's just such an MLS thing. And it's just a smack in the face reminder of where soccer is at in this country, that it stands behind the second most popular sport, which is the minor league sport of college football.
I mean, it's only an issue because USC and UCLA are good this year. Like, if they were 4-4, nobody would care.
I mean, I feel like college sports are well attended even when they're bad teams, right? Like, it's just a thing for people to do.
And we're
just David, you disagree?
This is audio not LA.
You can't shake your head.
Not LA, not Miami. As a proud alum of the University of Miami. When Miami's good, Joe Robbie Stadium is packed, and when Miami's bad, you can't give away your tickets.
I guess those are the definition of fair weather cities.
When in our life was Miami good at football? Isn't that before our lifetime? Okay, in our
Cody,
our adult.
I know you play young, but you're in your 30s. Miami was good during your life.
That was the 90s. I was thinking
the U.
I thought the U was the 80s. That was the 90s.
No, it was definitely not. Yeah,
it's the 80s and the 90s. They won a national title in 2001.
Really? Okay, so
Cody looks very puzzled.
I thought, well, still, that's 20 years. That's 20 plus years they've been really bad, right?
Well, since this isn't a college football podcast, I'm going to turn it back to soccer real quick.
Thank you, Chad.
You got to think this is the second MLS Cup in a row with some nonsense. Because remember, last year it was played in Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
Baseball stadium.
Yeah, but they're being played in it's an actual soccer specific
That's true.
stadium. It's a nice stadium.
And that stadium is great. Yeah, it's a great stadium. Just no parking. But there's no parking in LA anyways.
Can someone inform me on what the decision was for a neutral spot for the NWSL final? Is that a conscious decision or was that a backup plan of some sort?
I was surprised with the crowd size. It looked pretty good from what I saw.
Yeah,
They did well.
It looked pretty good. Like that was cool. Good for DC for coming out for it. But I don't know. I thought that seemed odd to me. It just seemed like it, maybe didn't have the ruckus environment that it could have had.
I'm not a fan of the neutral final. Like I know that MLS used to do that until what was it, 10, 11 years ago, something like that, where they were still doing neutrals. But they brought it back to the NWSL a few years ago, and I think it kind of worked out that it was the two teams it was, because Portland obviously has a very rabid fan base, had the highest attendance in the league on average, and then Kansas City's building quite the following here. So it seemed like people traveled well, but if I was Portland, I'd be pissed. You should have a home game. You had the better record. You were the 2 seed. You didn't get to host this championship game. You get to celebrate in front of what would have been probably they'd have filled, Providence Park if I had to guess. So that's kind of sad for them. I know if the roles were reversed, I'd be super pissed that the Current didn't get to host the game.
I mean, it probably has something to do with most of the teams not controlling the stadiums they play in, right? I mean, Portland Thorns are owned by noted scumbag Merritt Paulson, who also owns the Timbers. But if the Reign had won, I mean, where would they have played if Current had won?
Had a game.
Yeah, I mean, like not controlling the stadium could potentially be a problem. That's why NYCFC sometimes plays games in like Connecticut.
Yeah, or City Field, things like that. Is that what the Met Stadium's still called? Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, MLS Cup 2021 was played in Portland, Providence Park.
But not on grass.
Right.
Because they can't grow grass where it rains. It doesn't make any sense.
Before we go to break, I'm going to get in something I always forget to do, the shameless plug. Because we don't like doing it. But guys, it would help us very much if you would go rate and review our show wherever it is you get your podcast. We would appreciate it very much. We're underrated. All of our reviews are from a previous generation, and I think we've upped the standard of this show beyond those old reviews. So be a pal, go rate us, help us out. We would really appreciate it.
Also follow us.
University of Miami fans, were they? No.
Yeah, as long as
also follow us on social media. And Cody's Twitter is @thatcody though. That's THO. Chad is @play490. Robert's I always get confused at
SPKC Life.
Yours is hard, man. It confuses me. I can never get it right.
That is at the back post. Mike is down the byline. But go follow the Blue Testament. Go follow our writers. You get some really great stuff.
Okay, we'll be right back.
This podcast is brought to you by AT&T Fiber with All-Fi. Something tells me that the guy watching sports for 13 hours straight on Sunday, who then stays up watching the recaps of those 13 hours, then calls his friends to talk about it, is definitely going to notice that half-a-second delay.
Get AT&T Fiber with All-Fi and watch sports any time of day from anywhere in your house. Live like a gigillionaire. Limited availability in select areas. Go to att.com/hypergig to check eligibility. Coverage may require extenders at additional charge.
This episode is brought to you by Google Pixel, the official fan phone of the NBA and WNBA. The new Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro are built different. How? Take the Audio Magic Eraser tool. It helps block out distracting crowd noise so your play-by-play commentary sounds crystal clear. The only phone engineered by Google brings out the audio you care about so your videos sound as crisp as they look. Learn more at googlestore.com/pixelnba. Audio Magic Eraser requires Google Photos app. May not work on all audio elements.
All right. We are less than a month until the World Cup kicks off. And the buzz is starting to happen. But the only problem is that the United States doesn't necessarily seem to have a striker set yet. And I'm not even sure that the keeper is set yet. I think most people have an opinion on it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure the stage is set yet. So is everyone getting excited? Where's everyone feeling about this World Cup? I know we've talked about it initially. I've expressed my views on the opening game and the importance of it, and I'm very nervous for it. But how's everyone feeling? David, where are you at? Do we have a striker yet?
I think the problem is we have a lot of guys who can potentially be the striker, but nobody who really wants to grab
That's my
the
point.
reins.
You got multiple strikers. You don't have one.
Josh Sargent's hurt. I think Ricardo Pepi's been heating up, playing in the Eredivisie, but I don't know who the guys. I don't know that we need one. I don't know that we really need a true out and out striker.
I was going to say that myself.
The last time the U.S. played, what is that? The 14 World Cup?
Yeah.
Yes.
16. 14. Whenever it was. I mean, Josie Altidore blew out a hammy immediately.
Right.
I mean, he immediately ended his World Cup. And we did pretty well running out Clint Dempsey as kind of the striker. And Dempsey was never a traditional number 9.
Yeah, but he was like the greatest player in our nation's history at the same time, though.
Wow. You're going to disrespect.
Okay. Well,
that Donovan that way.
That was
you're going to disrespect.
That was not the important part of that. I'm just saying he was one of our best players at the time that could fill in, and he had all the experience in the world playing in a bunch of different places. And
absolutely. But do you need an out and out number 9 to score goals and to win games? Liverpool won the Premier League running out Bobby Firmino and getting goals from Mo Salah and
exactly
Sadio Mane.
They have Mo Salah and Sadio Mane and
right. Well,
a roster.
A healthy Christian Pulisic, a healthy Jordi Reyna are both, or Gio Reyna rather, can both score goals. Weston McKennie's a beast in the air. If Weston McKennie's healthy, we are going to score on set pieces. So do we need, a guy who's going to contend for the Golden Boot playing at the 9 for the U.S. to do well in the tournament? No. Would it be nice? Absolutely. I'm more concerned personally about the goaltending situation.
Are you afraid Zach Steffen might be the starter?
Yes.
Me too.
I agree.
Yeah,
I definitely don't want him starting either. But
most people with eyes over the last year plus would say Matt Turner should be the guy. But it does seem like Greg Berhalter has a thing with Zach Steffen, who, yes, he's been playing at the biggest club in the world and training at a very high level, but training and hasn't been playing that much. And we've also seen him mess up when he has played for the national team. So, David, you're on Matt Turner?
I like Matt Turner. Matt Turner's hurt right now.
Yep, groin.
And
he's due to be back, though, right?
Yeah, supposedly, yeah.
Supposedly,
muscle injuries are weird, though.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a groin injury on a guy who relies heavily on being explosive to be a shot stopper. The reason Berhalter likes Zach Steffen so much is that he's allegedly better at the ball with his feet and at distribution. But Matt Turner's an, elite shot stopper. If his groin isn't 100%, how does he have that ability to explode, to jump, to dive, to make those saves?
And which kind of keeper can make the biggest difference in a World Cup situation? A shot stopper.
Absolutely.
I would say. Yeah.
Tim Howard was the Secretary of Defense that one time.
Exactly. What was it? Some 16 stops, something crazy in that game. It was wild. You were mentioning injuries. I'm on the Turner train as well, but yeah, I think he's the guy. But if he's not healthy and he's not playing, that's a little tough. He was supposed to be playing in their Europa League games, and he missed one the other day. And supposedly it's short term. But they were talking during the Philadelphia NYCFC game. How would you feel if Sean Johnson is the starter and then he proceeded to let 3 goals in within a few minutes in that game? And I was like, oh boy, this is not feeling super confident right now. I don't know who will be the third keeper. He probably makes the most sense he's consistent with the team. He's a veteran versus bringing someone like, Gaga, Selena, and they just have all children on the roster. So.
And one of those goals, he just seemed to totally not even try on. I was like, what? You're auditioning to be a national team keeper? That's what you do? Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't the most resounding effort to steal the job from an injured guy and a guy that's not always playing. So I will say about Turner, though, and then we can move on to maybe the other parts of the national team, is I think he made a really good case about going to Arsenal. Like, obviously, he's not getting the minutes that he was getting, but he knows he's going to get a certain number of minutes playing in these League games and Cup games and things like that. Was that the problem with his situation before in New England was he would learn to play with his feet when he'd go to national team camp, and then he'd go back to the Revolution and they'd make him pound it long every time, just kicking every ball long. And he said, I'm practicing against the best players in the world. Well, Arsenal, that might be a little bit of a stretch, but they're a pretty good team, and he's getting to use his feet every day in practice and practice those skills and work on that. He's the second team keeper, so he's going against their starters presumably in practice, and I think that has to be helpful for you. And not having to switch back and forth between the two skill sets should, he, in his opinion, make him better. But we'll see. Do we want to talk other injuries? Because I heard David say, if healthy, let's list these names out. Weston McKennie has a quad injury. We mentioned Turner. Sargent has a calf injury. Tyler Adams has some sort of undisclosed injury. Luca De La Torre hamstring. Gio Reyna hamstring.
Serginho Dest, Chris Richards.
Anthony Jedi Robinson, ankle. Weah, ankle. Musa, groin. Stefan, knee. Cameron Carter-Vickers, knock. Chris Richards, undisclosed. Christian Roldan. Well,
and no one is healthy.
Everybody's hurt right now. This is the injury report from 3 days ago that I'm reading right now.
Oh, Cameron Carter-Vickers just got hurt.
Yeah, he said that. Although
it's a conspiracy.
When was last time CCV played? Oh, he did have a cap recently, didn't he? I was thinking.
Did he get called up and not play? Right? Didn't he not appear in the last thing? He was supposed to, but then he was a late replacement by EPB and somebody else.
Yeah.
Not Weston. Who was the other? Mark McKenzie.
Injuries could happen at any time in any season, right? But the fixture congestion for especially the European-based players is absolutely insane.
It's scary.
Because we're playing a World Cup in the winter to accommodate a tyrannical regime in the Middle East. You've got all these guys playing 2-3 times a week, and they're just being overexposed. And to steal a basketball term, the load management is insane. They all want to play. They all want to stay in form, show off so they could get to the World Cup and get on the national team. And Sung Heung-min got his face cracked open the other day in a Champions League game, and may or may not be able to play for South Korea. It's nuts.
And I'm glad you mentioned the tyrannical regime, as you put it. We've said here, anytime we talk about the World Cup, we simply must mention this. And did you guys see the Australians released a video kind of criticizing the host nation and the human rights issues and all of that? That was pretty cool. I liked that. I'm curious if other teams will join in, though. I don't. The silence from the U.S. players, it just seems like it's just probably going to continue, right? We're not touching that. We're here to just play the World Cup. We're not political. I feel like that's just where the United States are standing on this, right?
It feels like a scary part of the world to say things about people because, like Saudi Arabia, which is obviously not Qatar or Qatar, however you want to say it, killing journalists things for speaking out against what they're doing. Like, I don't know. I get being afraid a little bit of like, you're going into this strange country and they talk about going to these CONCACAF nations and the fans being terrifying, right? And what they do. But like, these are governments with like crazy power. Who knows what they can do? So hopefully you wouldn't do anything to, soccer stars. It'd be a PR nightmare for them, but they already have a PR nightmare. How many thousands of people died building these stadiums? So
I will definitely be watching this as much for the off the field stuff and just the developments and how our world is going to handle this, just because of the stuff like they want you to download that government app when you get there. And like, I'm just like, what are the female journalists going to do over there? It's going to be very interesting. It's probably going to be something of a shit show. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a big UFC guy, and obviously the UFC has a lot of women fighters and then broadcasters and things, and they're like covering their heads when they go to Abu Dhabi and do those events. And I realize these are different countries, but they're all, close proximity to one another, all very strict religious-based governments. So I don't know.
Very torn, very conflicted on all this. It just sucks. I just wish you could watch sports without having to worry about all of this.
I know. And then what did we have? Russia last time, right? Can we give like a non-terrible country a World Cup? My goodness. I mean, I guess we're getting one, but our lack of terribleness could be up in question. But a lot better than most of the world.
I mean, the thing is, it's all bribes, right? Like this one, people got indicted because Qatar got the World Cup. It took down the president of FIFA at one point. It's taken down FIFA's maybe the most corrupt organization in the world. Like they're fucking drug cartels that are more stand up and ethical than FIFA.
Yeah, they're trying to lift up the societies they're in, right? The drug cartels. So
Pablo Escobar, terrible man, gave back a lot more to the people than like Sepp Blatter ever did.
Okay, well, we should move on here. I know we already covered. There's one episode out. David, you and Thad, and wait, who did you do this with? You guys talked about the new signing of Nemanja Radoja. Who joined you on that one?
We were with
Sperry was
Sperry,
on.
Sperry.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, go check that one out. But I wanted to hear Chad and Robert's opinion on it as well. 29-year-old Serbian defensive midfielder, kind of fills the role of a whole of what we all need, of what we thought the team needed. But there's been he's 29, he's turning 30, he will be 30 when the season starts next year. I've heard some concerns about that, but obviously 30 is not too old to be playing soccer, especially in a defensive midfielder role. Where do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about this? Robert, is he going to be the starter, or is another signing coming? Robert, how do you feel?
Well, what we need is consistency there. I mean, obviously, Remy became the consistent player there this past season for the most part. Yuri got 7 starts. So we need consistency there. I'm taking a wait and see approach on this guy. What I've seen on video did not terribly impress me, but I'm sure Sporting's done their scouting, of course. But I want to see the consistency there. And as Peter always says, the more comfortable the players are with each other, the more they can work together and be successful. And I agree with that.
If you're putting together a highlight reel, isn't the most difficult position to make look good a defensive midfielder? Like there's not a lot of big banger plays that a defensive midfielder is making on a regular basis that, I know they can make some crunching tackles, maybe some line splitting passes, but I think that's probably the most underwhelming highlight reel you can come up with for a defensive midfielder.
And it doesn't exist. Like, as far as I can tell for this guy, I was digging and trying. I did my deep dive piece, and it's mostly just about everything but his actual play on the field because I couldn't find anything of video of him doing anything. Like, he was on a terrible team last year. I was like, I don't know if I want to watch Levante and see how he played in his limited starts with them because they're under constant pressure. They never have the ball. Like, it's not going to be at all like Sporting play with the ball. So it felt inaccurate. And had the highlights I think maybe Robert saw that were in the one story. I agree, they're very underwhelming. It was like some loose touches and he's recovering and getting the ball back. I'm like, well, at least he got it back, but he lost it, which is the most promising thing, right? Especially in a league that is going to be more physical and probably faster. I mean, La Liga is obviously very technical compared to MLS, but I think I've seen players talk about in the past how fast MLS is, and I don't know how fast this guy is. That's been our concern for years between everybody rotating through that defensive midfielder spot. Is anybody fast enough to catch and break up a play? And the TBD.
Well, it's more mentally fast and quick that you have to be, of course, but the physical doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it's not bad if you can close somebody down and catch up if you make a mistake, right? Get that ball back. I did have some thoughts, Cody. I don't know. I wrote an article about it on thebluetestament.com. Some of you probably already read it, but I recommend go checking it out. But he talked pretty highly of Fontes kind of selling him on Sporting Kansas City, and Fontes is out of contract. So I thought that was interesting. Don't know if that means anything in terms of Andreu coming back next year, hopefully at a steep discount. Also, his prior salaries, he was making just under $1 million last year at Levante. I don't know if he'll be taking a pay cut to come to MLS, but that would make him right around the same value of what Remy's contract is, what Gotti Kinda's contract is. So he's right in line. He's top 4 midfielder right there. Tommy would be ahead of all of them, but then they're all 4 kind of bundled together behind them, or 3.
So Peter said, I don't think this team needs a big overhaul. And, I think most of us would more or less agree with that. Do we think there's another signing coming? Where do you think that's going to be? We've talked about center back. Have we heard any other rumors?
The only other center back I saw was like a 19-year-old defensive midfielder and like a 38-year-old right back.
Right.
So I don't think either of those things are probably happening. Although if they buy out Uri, you never know. They might get like a prospective D-mid of the future, backing him up, but he was apparently overpriced. But I think center back, yeah, that's the thing that leaps off the page to me. If you bring back Andre, or are you bringing back Easy? They leak so many goals. Like, how can you bring back the same defense and just hope that the D mid fixes it all? Because I don't know.
We'll have to have on friend of the pod, Jake Peterson, to give us the scouting rundown of the new guy.
Give us some inside information.
Yeah, if Jake got tape on him, then I think that, obviously they have a lot of tape on him, right? They're not just signing a guy they haven't watched play. But I'd be interested to know, because his quote about Eric Tommy saying how he was talking about he watched tape on Tommy and he was kind of, making the pitch for why the team should sign Tommy. And he goes, if this guy isn't good in this system, I don't know who would be good in this system. Like, I just don't understand the system if this guy's not good. And he came in, he was immediately good. So if he had similar praise for Radoja, I think that would be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think any future roster moves we'll get insight once we see what contracts get declined, and who comes back. Let's say we part ways with Kyrie. Does the team go out and get another winger? Maybe. I know that they think that Tommy can play on the wing. I'd prefer for him to stay in the midfield. Although Peter doesn't call me and ask me these things when he makes his decisions. Based on who we bring back at center back, we're probably going out and getting another center back, depending on what happens with goalkeeper. We all think Pools Camp is a keeper of the future. Depending on what we do with Tim, Pools Camp might be the keeper of now. We might need a backup. We might want to go get somebody to compete. We really need to see what contracts get picked up and, who we make bona fide offers to have any sort of clue.
So basically what we're saying is after MLS Cup ends, the next week, it's going to be a bonanza because teams will be releasing all these names. We have the expansion draft, World Cup starting in less than 2 weeks after MLS Cup. It's going to be crazy, guys.
It's always a bonanza.
I agree. November 14th is the deadline for them to make their pickup options, bona fide offers, et cetera, et cetera. So they have to do it by then. And maybe they wait to see this expansion draft play out, not play their hands at who they want to pick up options on, because then that may make St. Louis want to take those players, like if they trigger some options. So waiting, I think, kind of makes some sense. And the draft is on the 11th. So it could be a quick little shuffle going on in those few days once the trade window opens right after the MLS Cup. So we'll see if there's any wheeling and dealing going on.
And can we throw some shit at St. Louis City losing their stadium sponsor and they haven't even started in the league yet?
Why do they that MLS team in St. Louis just seems cursed? Like, they've tried so many times and they finally got this one and things are still going wrong.
Well, they picked a bad sponsor to begin with. I'm not sure Centene is necessarily who I would have picked as a shirt sponsor, but Centene pulled out because they're not doing well financially.
Yeah, aren't they in trouble for Medicaid or Medicare fraud or something like that as well too? So
they should do the real St. Louis thing and just have it sponsored by Toasted Raviolis
and Provel cheese.
And the shirt will just say T-Ravs.
Or Emos could be there.
Oh, I said Uno's. Emos, yes. Emos cardboard pizza. Yes, that's
Emos is disgusting.
I will fight all of you to the death. I love Emos pizza. It's delicious. I'm not a St. Louis native, but I love it. Love it. Just had it this weekend,
Cardboard and ketchup. Anyway, speaking of bonanzas, were you guys following Champions League action this week? It was
hell yeah,
crazy. Benfica, you saw what happened in Benfica, David?
Yes. So they topped the group.
Yes, Benfica, they needed to score. They needed to outscore PSG by an absurd amount. I don't even think it was on their radar in any way to know that they could take top of the group. And they're beating whatever the name
Maccabi
of
Haifa.
Haifa, yes.
An Israeli team.
And so they're beating them. They're up by, they have 4 goals And the announcers of the Golazo show like realize they only need 2 more to take the top of the group, and they somehow score a 5th. And like, there's no urgency at all. They realize like these guys don't even know that all they need is 1 goal to do this. They're celebrating this 5th goal. They've got like 3 minutes to score another. And so they're like, hey, the announcers are kind of hating on them. Like, well, I can't believe they don't know this. Someone needs to tell them. And in spite of all that, they scored a 6th goal, like with the last kick of the game, and had no idea. They just kind of celebrated it as you would scoring a 6th goal. Like, it's very mediocre, whatever. We're really good. They suck. And had no idea until the game was over, like 3 minutes after the final whistle, that they had even topped the group. It was pretty crazy.
Well, so most of the groups were like not super competitive going to match day 6. You know, like generally speaking, we all kind of knew who was going to advance out of the groups, but Group D was the one I cared the most about. I'm a Tottenham fan, and literally any of the 4 teams had a chance to advance. The group ended with Tottenham topping the group with 11 points.
Yes,
Eintracht Frankfurt had 10, Sporting Lisbon had 7, and Marseille had 6. So like, depending on who won that match day 6 really affected a lot of things. Tottenham just needed to draw to advance. They gave up a goal in like at the end of the first half. They get 1 back. They're going to draw. They're going to get 2nd place in the group. And then last kick of the game, score a 2nd, and they top the group.
That goal was a stunner. Champions League
was
so much fun. I love Champions League weeks. It's my favorite. I don't get any work done. Anyway. Okay. Any final thoughts here, gentlemen? What else are we missing from the soccering world? We covered.
Well, I would like to circle back to the very beginning where we talked about the Kansas City Current, but actually didn't talk about the game itself. We just talked about the players that were going to leave. Did we want to give a few seconds to the sadness of the game?
Like I said, I think we did have at least 1 podcast covering it, so I didn't. And we're a few days removed, and it was a terrible game. And I feel like if I talked about it enough, it would become too negative. So
I just was sad that like Portland didn't even win the game. Like, it was an own goal and like a terrible giveaway that led to both of their goals. And it just, like how unfortunate that was how it all played out. And, you know, maybe if they don't have all the injuries they had, you know, you don't slip and fall on Elizabeth Ball going back on that first goal. Like, just took the wind out of their sails.
You know, Chad, you probably watched more Current games than the rest of us, but my disappointment is I didn't think that the way the Current played was reflective of how well they played all season. You know, I don't think it showed how great of a job Potter did with the team. And, you know, I just don't feel like it was a fair representation to the ladies of how great of a season they really had.
I kept feeling like individual players were just off. You know, I think the team, you know, I think the players were like fighting and all of that. It just looked like, I don't know, like Kristen Hamilton's magic. It just like wasn't working. She kind of reminds me of Johnny Russell a little bit, where she just runs right at players, and you know, it's going to halfway work sometimes and all of that. And it just wasn't, the magic was just gone a little bit from some of the individual players, I think.
Yeah, I think the way they played most of the year was they're a little defensive at times, right? I mean, they essentially are in a 5-back most of the time. They call it a 3-back, but those wing backs will be pinned pretty deep at times. And they try to hit on the counters, and they could not move the ball through the midfield at all in this game. It was like brutal to watch how quickly they turned it over. There's a player on Portland, I'm not very familiar with her, I'm probably saying her name wrong, Kuika, something like that. Every time they got near her, she just stole the ball off of whoever it was. And it was just painful to watch because they couldn't connect more than a few passes. There was like 1 or 2 sequences where they put a few passes together, and I was like, all right, something's about to happen here. And then, you know, turnover would happen. So they're trying to go long, trying to go over the top, playing super direct at times because they couldn't play through the midfield, and it just wasn't working. They couldn't hold the ball up. I mean, Becky Sauerbrunn still on that back line. I don't care how old she is. She's still one of the best center backs in the league, and she was on both those FC Kansas City championship teams too. So she's a heck of a player, and that's where the Current didn't have it, is they just didn't have the defenders that they had. And I think, and if it was a stalemate at 0-0, you never know what's going to happen in a game like that, right? Something could happen at the last moment, but because they couldn't get going and because they were behind earlier, they're just not really built to come back, in my opinion.
So now that Chad has thoroughly brought us negative to end the podcast, David, can you give us something to hold on to on a light note as we end this podcast?
The Yanks are going to advance out of their group in the World
Oh
Cup.
no, absolutely not. We already descended too far into college football this episode. We're not talking about the Yankees. Get the Yankees out of here.
I was talking about the U.S. national team.
The Yanks.
Cody. The
Yanks
yes.
come marching in.
Are going to advance out of their group. The Yankees already got bounced from the playoffs.
You've not heard them referred to as the Yanks. So when the Yanks come marching in.
Yes, I call them that too. I just thought I heard Yankees. I thought David was trying to upset me. All right, guys.
Go Yanks, go Sporting.
Go Yanks, go Sporting.
Don't seem so tough. And 3 own goals ain't all that rough. Our skipper has just been sent off. Supporters strong have all gone soft. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. Give me beer or whiskey, wine or gin, anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking.